And again, your candidate name goes on the top. And here are all the performance criteria you must meet on your project. Again, this is something I'm not going to take time to read to you right now, but I'm going to try and clarify a few little points. Now, should take at least 4 hours to instruct. They know that you need to do practical skills with many of the things you're going to be teaching. And they know when you teach for 4 hours, you're going to take breaks. So that 4 hours to instruct needs to be at least 3 hours of classroom. It can all be classroom, but if it is all classroom, then you're going to have some kind of an activity that the students are going to perform in class that will function like a practical skill. So at least 4 hours to instruct. That's including your break time, reasonable break time, not 15 minutes of class and 45 minutes of break. And it needs to be an original lesson plan, not a modified existing lesson plan. So make sure you remember those two things. The other thing about at least 4 hours, you may have something in mind that's going to take much longer than that. I have had people who wanted to do courses on eating right or nutrition or exercise or some sort of wellness things. You're not going to teach that in 4 hours, but you can do 1 4-hour module of that whole course. You don't have to, your whole course doesn't need to end after 4 hours. So if you've got something in mind like that that's going to take more than 4 hours, many things that you would teach might take 12 hours. You can just do a 4-hour module of that entire class. So you don't have to have, if you've got a class that needs to be 12 hours, you don't have to have the whole 12 hours completely finished. If you need more time on that, you can just turn in like one of the 4-hour modules. Remember, I would go through here if I were you and highlight some things like at least 5 written objectives. Anytime you see a number, at least 5 is what you have to have. You can have more than that, and we'll talk more about that later. But you must meet the minimum requirements. You need to have a student manual. And when we first started doing this, people would try and do their PowerPoint as their lesson plan, and then they would try and just print out the PowerPoint notes with the lines on the side as their student manual. You need to remember PowerPoint is a teaching aid. It is not a lesson plan authoring document. It's not intended to be the only thing guiding you through teaching this class. You need to write a class that other instructors can use, and in order for them to do that, you're going to need a separate lesson plan, which is an outline, and a separate student manual. Now, you might take something from that instructor manual and pull some things out of it and create your student manual that way, but they will not count a handout made from PowerPoint notes as a student manual. So you need to remember that. You need to have at least 5 different reference sources that you used in preparing the presentation portion of the lesson plan. You may have lots of things you look at as you go through preparing your lesson plan. Keep a list as you go. You don't have to actually use all 5 references. You just need to have looked at several things, and you probably will go through and Google some things, and you'll look at them and you'll get some ideas, but you don't necessarily use them directly. That's okay. You can list them as your reference sources. You should have a bibliography page at the end that shows all the reference sources that you use. If you will start that document first and keep track of everything you look at, then you will have what you need when you get to this 5 reference sources. If you don't do it as you go along, you're going to forget where some of them were and the information that you need to create a bibliography. So just go ahead and start that and keep a running thing of them. You can always take things off if you didn't really use them, or something like that. But you'll also know when you get to 5 by doing that. You need to create at least one activity and so forth. So here's a key that a lot of people forget. Because you're handing this lesson plan off to other people, you need to have directions and instructions so that a person who meets the qualifications of instructor 1 could teach the course from your lesson plan. You've probably seen lesson plans where they'll say, do the duck, duck, goose activity. And you have no idea what the duck, duck, goose activity is because you didn't create the lesson plan. You need to have directions for the instructor, and in your student manual or handouts or something like that, you need to have the instructions for the students that they need to do to perform those activities. Okay, again, we have a lot of writing here that you need to read through. Here's basically a little checklist of all the things that you need to create. Let me say something about the video recording. The video recording is of you presenting your class to a minimum of 5 students. If you can get that scheduled in your department somehow and you have guinea pigs that have to sit through it, that's great. If not, perhaps you can get your crew or some other really nice people to sit down and go through your course. But you need to have at least 5 people, and you are going to record that because that's how they're going to check and make sure that your course actually lasts for 4 hours.